John Miller adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform one last time before the shuttle docked with Concordia Station. The year was 2157, and this meeting would be humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Council. The weight of representing not just Earth, but all human colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn pressed heavily on his shoulders. "Nervous, Ambassador?" asked Captain Susan Wright, her military posture perfect as always. Cautiously optimistic, Miller replied with a small smile. "We've come too far to turn back now." Dr. Alan Harris looked up from his datapad. The scans show at least 5 different alien physiologies waiting in the reception area. This is remarkable. The shuttle locked into place with a soft thud. Miller took a deep breath. Remember our mission. Equal membership. Nothing less. The delegation of 12 humans walked through the airlock and into a cavernous hall, unlike anything built by human hands. The ceiling arched hundreds of feet above them, with light filtering through what looked like living crystal. 7 distinct groups of aliens stood in a semicircle, watching the humans approach. A tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms stepped forward. "I am Xantu of the Merax, Council Facilitator. Welcome to Concordia." Miller stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Ambassador John Miller of Earth, we are honored by this invitation." A harsh laugh came from a scaled, reptilian alien with a ridge of spines down its back. "So these are the apes who think they're ready for council membership," it said in a surprisingly clear voice. "They look even softer than their transmissions suggested." "Grathol of the Xeraxians, you will observe protocol," Xantu said firmly. "The humans are here as invited guests." Miller maintained his diplomatic smile, but he felt captain. An ancient-looking alien with wispy white tendrils floating around its head drifted forward. "I am Zonta of the Veldari. Our records show your species has only achieved spaceflight within the last 2 centuries. Quite remarkable progress." "Thank you," Miller said. "Humanity is young compared to your civilizations, but we believe we have much to offer the galactic community." A massive, rock-like being shifted forward. "The Krell question if your species has truly mastered its violent tendencies. Your broadcasts show constant conflict." Before Miller could respond, a small, delicate alien with large eyes that shifted color stepped between them. "The humans also show great capacity for growth and compassion. I am Neri of the Thylorians. We sense genuine hope in these ones." The formal introductions continued with the technology-focused Novari and the resource-rich Quadulans completing the council members. Miller noted how each species seemed to evaluate the humans like they were examining specimens rather than meeting potential allies. The delegation was escorted to the meeting chamber, a round room with 7 large chairs arranged in a circle and a smaller one placed slightly outside the formation. "Please, Ambassador, take your observer seat," Xantu said. Miller frowned. "I was under the impression we would be discussing Earth's petition for full council membership." Grathol made a sound like stones grinding together. "Surely you don't expect equal status immediately. Your species has barely left its home system. We have established colonies throughout our solar system and made contact with 3 non-council species already," Miller pointed out. The invitation suggested membership talks. Zonta's tendrils swirled faster. "Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. We are offering Earth-protected species status. This is quite generous, given your development stage." Miller felt his face flush, but kept his voice even. "Protected status? You mean as a primitive world under council supervision, with guidance and restrictions for your own safety?" The Krell representative rumbled. "No independent military development. Limited interstellar travel. Access to basic council technology as we deem appropriate." Captain Wright stepped closer to Miller. "Ambassador, this is unacceptable." The meeting deteriorated from there. For 3 hours, Miller presented Earth's case for equal membership. For 3 hours, the council dismissed, deflected, and patronized. As the session ended, Xantu approached Miller privately. "You must understand, Ambassador. The Council has existed for 50,000 years. New members are rare. Accept protected status. In a few centuries, perhaps. Earth will not accept second-class status, Miller said firmly. We came as equals or not at all. Neri, the Thylorian, watched from across the room, her eyes shifting to a deep blue. She whispered to her aide, "They are stronger than the others realize. This may not end as the Council expects." Miller gathered his team. "We need to report back to Earth. And we need to find out what they're not telling us." Lisa Porter stood before the wall of screens in Earth's Intelligence Center, her face grim as she studied the latest satellite images. The Xeraxian fleet movements near the Mars colony were concerning. Ships that should not have been there hovered just beyond detection range of standard Earth sensors. "Director Walsh needs to see this immediately," she told her assistant, "and get me a secure line to Ambassador Miller on Concordia Station." Miles away in space, Paul Carter moved quietly through the lower levels of Concordia. As Miller's aide, he had been assigned basic quarters far from the main diplomatic areas. The Council representatives called it standard procedure, but Carter suspected it was to keep humans contained and monitored. He paused at an intersection when he heard voices around the corner. Pressing himself against the wall, he listened. "The humans must not know about the mineral deposits in their asteroid belt," a gravelly voice said. Carter recognized it as belonging to a Quadulan representative. "They are already mining there, but they have not discovered the rare elements. Our agreement stands. You secure us access. We provide the protection." This voice belonged to a Krell. Carter slowly backed away. This was exactly the kind of information Miller needed. Back in the main diplomatic chamber, Dr. Alan Harris was growing increasingly frustrated. The Council had provided what they called cultural and scientific exchanges, but as he reviewed the materials, he noticed something odd. "Ambassador," he whispered to Miller during a break, "these technological schematics they've shared, they're based on our own designs. Look at the communication array. It's almost identical to the one we developed for the Mars colony 5 years ago." Miller frowned. "How is that possible? They claimed they never received our early transmissions." "They lied," Harris said simply. When the talks resumed, Miller found himself seated at the small observer chair again, looking up at the 7 Council species. The symbolism wasn't subtle. "We have reviewed your petition for full membership," Gagzantu of the Merax announced. "The Council acknowledges humanity's potential but finds your species lacks the necessary development for equal status." Miller kept his face neutral. "And what development would that be?" Graffel of the Xeraxians made a dismissive gesture. "Your technology is primitive. Your social structures unstable. Your species still fights among itself. Yet our primitive technology seems remarkably similar to some of yours," Miller said, sliding forward the evidence Dr. Harris had compiled. "Perhaps because you've been stealing it while pretending we didn't exist." The chamber erupted in denials and objections. Zonta's tendrils whipped around agitatedly. "This is human paranoia. We have monitored your broadcasts for scientific purposes only." "And the Xeraxian ships near our Mars colony? Scientific too?" Miller asked. Graffel's scales darkened. "We patrol all sectors. Your colony happens to be in a standard patrol route." Susan Wright spoke up from behind Miller. "A patrol route that didn't exist until we established the colony. Interesting coincidence." The Thylorian representative, Neri, remained silent, her eyes shifting through colors rapidly as she sensed the emotions in the room. Xantu raised all 4 hands. "These accusations are serious but unproven. The Council proposes a compromise. Earth will be granted provisional protected status for 50 Earth years, after which full membership may be reconsidered." 50 years. Miller couldn't hide his shock. "During which time we would be subject to your restrictions and oversight. For your own protection," the Krell representative rumbled. Miller stood. "The Earth delegation requests a recess to consult with our government." In their private chamber, Captain Wright paced angrily. "They're stalling. They want access to our resources and technology while keeping us contained. Carter's intelligence confirms it, Miller agreed. And Porter's transmission about the Ziraxian fleet is troubling. Dr. Harris looked up from his data. There's something else. I've analyzed their technology samples. They're advancing by stealing innovations from multiple species, not just us. They take the best ideas and restrict the original creators. Miller sat heavily in his chair. They've been doing this for thousands of years, finding promising species, harvesting their innovations, keeping them dependent. So what do we do? Wright asked. Miller's eyes hardened. We bring this to President Davis. If the Council won't treat us as equals, perhaps it's time humanity showed them exactly what we're capable of. Carter looked nervous. You're suggesting we walk away from the talks? No, Miller said quietly. I'm suggesting we start preparing for what comes after we walk away. President Laura Davis looked at the faces around the emergency meeting table. Earth's Unified Defense Council rarely gathered on such short notice. The video feed from Concordia Station had ended, and now the room sat in heavy silence. Ambassador Miller's report is troubling, she finally said. General Stone, your assessment. General Kevin Stone stood and activated the central display. Madam President, our analysis confirms everything Miller reported. The Ziraxian fleet positions show clear military intent. They've placed ships near every major human outpost. He switched the display to show technical schematics. These are human designs for our latest propulsion systems, and these, he switched again, are supposedly Novari designs the Council shared as a cultural exchange. The similarities are not coincidental. Lisa Porter stepped forward. My intelligence team intercepted communications between Council species. They discuss humanity as a resource to be harvested, not as potential equals. They've done this before, Dr. Harris added from the video feed. I've found references to at least 3 species that were given protected status and then gradually stripped of their resources and innovations. President Davis turned to Defense Minister Clark. Options. We could try to negotiate better terms, Clark suggested. Perhaps accept limited protected status while we build our strength secretly. Captain Wright, standing beside Miller in the video feed, shook her head. The Council's monitoring would detect any meaningful military development. They've positioned themselves to control our growth. Miller leaned forward. Madam President, I believe we have only one viable option. We must withdraw from these talks completely. Murmurs filled the room. Withdraw? Minister Clark looked shocked. That would leave us with no protection, no allies. We already have no protection and no true allies in the Council, Miller countered. What we do have is our ingenuity and our freedom, if we walk away now. President Davis stood and walked slowly around the table. If we withdraw, the Council might take immediate action against us. They might, General Stone agreed. But our analysis suggests they'll underestimate us. The Council believes we need them more than they need us. Their arrogance is a weakness we can exploit. And the non-Council species? Davis asked. Porter brought up another display. At least 5 spacefaring species operate outside Council authority. They trade with Council worlds but maintain independence. They could become valuable allies. The room fell silent again as President Davis considered the options. Finally, she nodded. Ambassador Miller, you will return to Concordia and formally withdraw Earth from these talks. Captain Wright and a security team will accompany you. After your announcement, you will return immediately. And then? Miller asked. And then, Davis said firmly, we prepare. 2 days later, Miller stood once more before the Council. The 7 representatives looked down at him from their elevated seats, their expressions ranging from concern to disdain. The people of Earth have considered the Council's offer, Miller announced. We have decided to withdraw from all negotiations with the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The chamber erupted. Titantu raised all 4 hands for silence. Ambassador Miller, surely you understand this is most unusual. No species has ever rejected Council protection. No protection was being offered, Miller replied evenly. Only control. Grathel's scales flushed dark with anger. This is foolishness. Without Council oversight, your primitive species has no place in galactic affairs. Perhaps, Miller acknowledged, but we would rather find our own place than accept the one you've chosen for us. The Thylorian, Neri, stepped forward, her eyes swirling with colors. I sense resolve, not fear. The humans truly intend to walk away. This is merely a negotiating tactic, the Krell representative rumbled dismissively. They will return when they realize their isolation. Miller allowed himself a small smile. You misunderstand. We're not leaving to sulk. We're leaving to prepare. Captain Wright and her security team formed up behind Miller. The human delegation turned as one and walked toward the exit. What could they possibly prepare for? Grathol laughed. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Zonta's tendrils moved slowly, thoughtfully. They are an unpredictable species. They are nothing, Grathol insisted, a minor annoyance that will be forgotten in a decade. As the humans disappeared through the doorway, only Neri whispered, I fear we have made a terrible mistake. 5 years passed. In the workshop of Earth's Advanced Technologies Division, Greg Martinez wiped sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the final connections on his prototype. The shield generator hummed to life, its blue glow filling the test chamber. Power at 100%, his assistant called out. Ready for weapons test. Martinez nodded and stepped back. Begin the sequence. A series of energy blasts hit the shield. The blue glow wavered but held firm. Martinez smiled. The Council had deemed this technology impossible for humans to develop for at least another century. Yet here it was. Across the complex, Dr. Barbara Nelson monitored her own breakthrough. The faster-than-light communication device on her desk connected instantly with its twin on Mars. No delay. No signal degradation. The Council's communication network took minutes to relay messages across the same distance. Send the confirmation to Strategic Command, she told her team. FTL comm network is ready for full deployment. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Susan Wright, formerly captain, inspected the newest addition to humanity's deep space fleet. The UES Defiant gleamed in the sunlight, its hull incorporating technologies that didn't exist when humans left the peace talks. How many ships ready for deployment? She asked her aide. 30 battleships, 70 cruisers, and over 200 support vessels. Admiral, another 50 battleships will be ready within 3 months. Wright nodded with satisfaction. When they'd left Concordia Station, Earth had possessed only 12 interplanetary vessels, none designed for combat. In his office at Human Strategic Command, John Miller studied reports from across human space. No longer an ambassador, he now coordinated humanity's grand strategy. Our traders made contact with the XLNR again, his aide reported. They've provided more information on Council patrol routes and defensive capabilities. And our outposts in the Kuiper Belt? Miller asked. Completely hidden from Council scans, sir. They still have no idea we've expanded beyond Mars. Miller allowed himself a small smile. The Council believed humans confined to their home system, licking their wounds after the failed peace talks. Their arrogance had become humanity's greatest advantage. A knock on his door announced the arrival of President Davis. John, how are the preparations coming? She asked, taking a seat across from him. Better than expected, Madam President. Martinez's shield technology works. Nelson's FTL communications are operational. And Wright has built a fleet that could challenge any single Council species. What about allies? Davis asked. Miller brought up a galactic map. We've made contact with 3 non-Council species. The XLNR traders have been particularly helpful. They've faced Council restrictions for centuries and are eager to see the status quo disrupted. And Council surveillance. They're watching our main colonies, but their intelligence is outdated. Their latest reports still show us struggling with basic interplanetary travel. They've completely missed our technological leap. Davis nodded slowly. Grathel's latest message was particularly insulting. He suggested we might be granted limited trading rights if we apologize for our tantrum at Concordia. Miller's expression hardened. They still don't understand what they created when they dismissed us. When will we be ready? Davis asked. Admiral Wright believes her fleet will be fully prepared in 4 months. Martinez is adapting his shield technology for our larger vessels. Once that's complete, we can move to the next phase. And the first target? Miller highlighted a location on the map. The Ziraxian shipyard near Proxima Centauri. It's been positioned to threaten our colony since before the peace talks. Taking it will send a clear message. The Council will respond with force, Davis warned. We're counting on it, Miller replied. But they'll be responding to a situation they don't understand with outdated intelligence against technology they believe we can't possess. Davis stood and looked out the window at the fleet in orbit. 5 years ago, they offered us 50 years to develop under their supervision. Yes, Miller said quietly. I wonder if they regret that generosity now. On the Council mining moon Proxima II, Supervisor Lethnak of the Ziraxians looked up from his workstation with sudden concern. The alarm wasn't loud, but its meaning was clear. Unauthorized vessels were approaching. Report. He barked at his security officer. Unknown ships, sir, not matching any Council design. The officer's scales paled. 15 vessels, approaching from multiple vectors. Impossible, Lethnak hissed. No non-Council species has access to this sector. The communication screen lit up with an incoming transmission. Lethnak stared in shock at the human face that appeared. This is Admiral Susan Wright of the United Earth Fleet. Your facility is now under human control. Lower your defenses and prepare for boarding. Miles away, the real battle had already begun. The Ziraxian military shipyard that had long threatened human colonies was under heavy attack. Wright's main fleet had split into 3 battle groups, each targeting a different section of the massive facility. Inside the command ship UES Defiant, Wright watched as the human vessels easily evaded Ziraxian weapons fire. Their shields, based on Martinez's breakthrough technology, glowed blue with each impact but held firm. They're trying to bring their main weapons online, her tactical officer reported. Target their power nodes, Wright ordered. Disable, don't destroy. The human ships fired with precision. One by one, the shipyard's weapon systems went dark. On the communication screen, Wright could see the panicked faces of Ziraxian commanders as they realized their weapons had no effect on the human vessels. At the mining colony, Frank Cooper led the boarding team. Unlike the military strike at the shipyard, this was to be a bloodless takeover. Cooper had been chosen for his diplomatic skills, as well as his military training. We have no quarrel with the workers here, he told his team as they prepared to dock. This is about resources, not revenge. The human team met no resistance. The Ziraxian guards, seeing their weapons had no effect on human shields, surrendered immediately. Cooper approached Supervisor Lethnak with an outstretched hand. Your workers will not be harmed. They can be transported to the nearest Ziraxian outpost, or they can continue working under human management with fair compensation. Lethnak stared at the human in disbelief. How is this possible? You were contained. Primitive. Cooper smiled slightly. You believed what the Council wanted you to believe. News of the human attack spread quickly through Council space. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, with Grathel of the Ziraxians demanding immediate action. The humans have attacked Council facilities without provocation. He roared. This aggression cannot stand. Zonta of the Veldari raised a calming tendril. Let us consider this carefully. Our intelligence on human capabilities was clearly flawed. They were nothing 5 years ago, the Krell representative rumbled. How could they advance so quickly without our knowledge? Neri of the Thalorians spoke softly. Perhaps we should attempt communication before military response. I sense there is much we do not understand about this situation." Before the debate could continue, all screens in the chamber activated simultaneously. John Miller's face appeared, transmitted via Dr. Nelson's FTL communication network that bypassed all Council security measures. "Members of the Galactic Council," Miller said calmly, "5 years ago, you offered humanity a choice between subservience and isolation. We chose a third path." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We now control the Proxima shipyard and mining colony. We have not harmed any civilians. We have offered fair terms to those who wish to remain and safe passage to those who wish to leave." "This is an act of war," Grathel shouted. "No," Miller replied. "This is an act of equality. We are now prepared to resume negotiations as equals, not as supplicants. The choice is yours." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. After a moment, Xantu of the Merak spoke. "We must vote. Do we accept the humans' terms, or do we authorize military response?" The Council chamber erupted in heated debate. In the shadows, representatives from smaller Council species exchanged worried glances. One by one, they slipped away to send private messages to human space. The balance of power was shifting. The Council voted 7-0 to reject human demands, but the apparent unity was already cracking. "All Council ships will engage the human fleet at once," Grathel announced. "We will crush this rebellion before it spreads." The Thylorian representative, Neri, stood from her seat. "The Thylorian ships will not participate in this action." The chamber fell silent. "What treachery is this?" Grathel hissed, his scales darkening with rage. "Not treachery. Wisdom." Neri's eyes swirled with colors. "We have sensed deception in this Council for too long. The humans exposed what we suspected." Zonta of the Veldari moved his tendrils thoughtfully. "The Veldari will also withhold our ships from this conflict. We require more information." "Cowards," the Krell representative growled. But the cracks were spreading beyond the Council chamber. On the Kwajalein homeworld, news of human resistance had sparked protests. The people had discovered how their leaders had hidden the truth about resource allocations for centuries. Dr. Alan Harris walked through the ancient halls of the Veldari capital, a place no human had ever been invited before. His unofficial diplomatic mission broke all Council protocols, but the Veldari had reached out secretly after the Proxima incident. "Your species has surprised us," Dr. Harris said, Elder Zonta, floating beside him. "We believe the Ziraxian reports." "That was their mistake," Harris replied. "They saw what they expected to see." "And what should we expect to see now?" the Elder asked. Harris stopped walking. "A chance for a better galactic community, one built on mutual respect, not exploitation." Meanwhile, 3 Novari scientists arrived at Earth's research facility. They had defected, bringing with them detailed information about Council technological vulnerabilities. "Your FTL communication network," the lead scientist told Dr. Nelson. "It's more advanced than anything the Council has. They've been suppressing this research for centuries." Nelson nodded, "Because faster communication means less control." "Exactly," the Novari agreed. "And we are not the only ones who see this." At Rigel Pass, the strategic junction between multiple Council systems, Admiral Wright's fleet faced its first major challenge. A combined Ziraxian and Krell battle group had assembled to block human expansion. "They outnumber us 3-1, her tactical officer reported. Wright studied the enemy formation. "They're still using standard Council tactics. Predictable." She opened a channel to all ships. "Battle Plan Delta. Remember, minimal casualties. We want to defeat them, not destroy them." The human fleet split into smaller, faster groups. The Council ships, built for power rather than maneuverability, struggled to track them. Martinez's shield technology absorbed the enemy fire, while human weapons precisely disabled engines and weapon systems. In just 40 minutes, half the Council fleet was adrift in space, crews intact but ships powerless. The rest retreated in disarray. In his office, John Miller received an unexpected transmission. The sender identification showed it came from the Merak's homeworld, but not through official channels. Director Miller, I am Veltrue, second speaker of the Merak's diplomatic corps. The blue four-armed alien looked nervous. I contact you unofficially to request separate peace talks. Miller raised an eyebrow. The council voted unanimously against negotiations. In public, yes, but many see the direction of this conflict. The Xeraxians and Krell push for total war, but they do not speak for all of us. News of the human victory at Rigel Pass spread quickly. The Thalorians formally withdrew from the council, followed by the Veldari the next day. The Quadralan government fell to internal revolution, and the new leadership immediately reached out to human representatives. In the council chamber, now half empty, Grathel rage. Traitors. All of them. The Krell representative stood firm. We do not need them. Our forces are still superior. Are they? Kegzan-2 of the Meraks asked quietly. The humans defeated our best ships using tactics we've never seen. Their technology surpasses our predictions. They are just humans. Grathel shouted. Yes, Kegzan-2 replied thoughtfully. Perhaps that is what we fail to understand. The Grand Council chamber on Arcturus Station had once hosted representatives from 7 powerful species. Now only the Xeraxians, Krell, and a reluctant faction of the Meraks remained. Outside the station, the combined Xeraxian-Krell fleet gathered for what they called the final solution to the human problem. 500 ships, Grathel announced proudly. The largest battle group ever assembled. The humans have no chance against such power. The Krell commander nodded his rocky head. We will crush them and then deal with the traitor species who joined them. Monitoring the transmissions from safely outside the system, Admiral Wright assessed the enemy fleet. They've committed almost everything they have, she told her officers. Just as we predicted. The human-led coalition now included ships from the Thalorians, Veldari, and the newly liberated Quadralans. The Novari had provided technical support rather than vessels, upgrading coalition ships with technologies long hidden by the council leadership. Are Martinez's shield modifications ready? Wright asked. Her chief engineer nodded. All ships are equipped with the enhanced version. It should neutralize the Xeraxian superweapon. Then send the signal. All ships to jump positions. Across human space and beyond, the coalition fleet received the order. Using coordinates provided by the Merak's peace faction, they positioned themselves for a synchronized FTL jump directly into the heart of the Arcturus system. On Earth, President Davis addressed the combined military and civilian leadership. Today we fight not just for humanity, but for a new vision of galactic society. One where advancement is not controlled by a select few, where resources are not hoarded, and where no species is deemed inherently superior to others. She looked at Miller. Director, your final assessment. Admiral Wright has tactical command of the battle. Our diplomatic teams are ready to offer surrender terms at the right moment. Most importantly, he added, we've identified the location of the Xeraxian leadership bunker on Arcturus Station. Davis nodded. Then it's time. Send the order. In space near Arcturus, the largest battle in known galactic history began with a flash of light. 200 coalition ships appeared simultaneously, surrounding the Council fleet. The Xeraxian and Krell commanders, expecting an attack from a single direction, found themselves caught in a 3-dimensional trap. Fire the superweapon, Grathel ordered frantically. The massive energy weapon, designed to overwhelm any known shielding, discharged toward the human flagship. The beam struck the UES Defiance shields, which glowed brilliantly blue for a moment, and held. Impossible, Grathel hissed. Admiral Wright opened a channel to all vessels in the system. This is Admiral Susan Wright of the Earth Fleet. To all Council ships, your super weapon has failed. Your station is surrounded. We offer honorable surrender terms to all who lay down arms immediately. On her command screen, President Davis appeared. "Broadcast the full terms to everyone in the system," Davis instructed. Wright nodded and activated the system-wide transmission. Davis's face appeared on screens throughout the Council fleet and station. "People of the Council worlds, I am President Laura Davis of Earth. We do not seek your destruction but your liberation. For too long, your leaders have controlled technology, restricted advancement, and maintained power through deception. Today that ends." In the midst of battle, something unexpected happened. A Krell battleship turned its weapons on the nearest Ziraxian vessel. "Commander Rockthar has defected," Wright's tactical officer reported. 3 more Krell ships are following his lead. The battle's momentum shifted completely. More Krell ships ceased firing on coalition vessels. The Marax ships withdrew to a neutral position. Only the Ziraxians fought on with increasing desperation. On Arcturus Station, Grathul and his inner circle retreated to their secure bunker. "We will never surrender to humans," he snarled. "Prepare the station's self-destruct sequence." His second-in-command hesitated. "Sir, there are 50,000 civilians on this station. They are acceptable losses in this war," Grathul replied coldly. Unknown to him, Miller was already leading a small team through the station's service tunnels, guided by schematics provided by Marax defectors. Their mission: reach the bunker before Grathul could take one final devastating action. 1 year after the Battle of Arcturus, representatives from 17 species gathered on the neutral world of Harmony. The new Galactic Cooperative headquarters rose from the planet's lush landscape, its design incorporating elements from all member worlds, including Earth. Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, John Miller stood before the gathered representatives. No longer a military director, he now served as humanity's High Representative. "Today we sign the Galactic Charter of Rights," he announced. "A document that ensures equal standing for all species, guarantees free exchange of knowledge, and forbids the suppression of technological advancement." The memory of that final confrontation on Arcturus Station still burned in Miller's mind. His team had reached Grathul's bunker just as the Ziraxian leader prepared to activate the station's self-destruct sequence. The firefight had been brief but intense. In the end, it was a Krell defector on Miller's team who had prevented the disaster, using his rocky body to absorb a blast meant for Miller. Now Grathul's successor, a younger, reform-minded Ziraxian named Krell Tash, stepped forward to sign the charter. The Ziraxians had faced the hardest transition, their society built on centuries of superiority and control. But change was coming, slowly but surely. "The Ziraxian people have much to atone for," Krell Tash said quietly, "and much to learn about true cooperation." Admiral Wright, now overseeing the conversion of warships to exploration vessels, watched from the gallery. Under the new charter, no single species could maintain a military force capable of dominating others. Instead, a joint protection fleet with mixed crews ensured the safety of all members. "Hard to believe it's only been 6 years since we walked out of those peace talks," said Lisa Porter, who now led the cooperative security and intelligence reforms. 6 years and 3 months, Wright corrected with a smile. "Sometimes the shortest path requires walking away from a bad deal." In the science wing of the new headquarters, Dr. Harris worked alongside researchers from 12 species. The free exchange of knowledge had already yielded remarkable breakthroughs, including medical treatments that benefited all member worlds. Dr. Nelson's team has integrated the Novari quantum principles with our FTL communication network, a Thylorian researcher reported excitedly. "The new system will connect every cooperative world with real-time communication." Harris nodded appreciatively. Something the old council claimed was impossible for at least another century. As the signing ceremony concluded, Miller found himself standing next to Neri, the Thylorian who had first sensed the truth about humanity in those early peace talks. "Your people surprised us all," she said, her eyes swirling with warm colors. "But I believe the greatest test still lies ahead." Miller looked at her curiously. "What do you mean?" Neary gestured toward a secured room where select representatives were reviewing classified findings. The old council was corrupt and controlling, but they were also preparing for something. Something they kept hidden from most of their own people. Deep in that secure room, evidence recovered from Arcturus Station revealed the real reason behind the Council's tight control of technology and resources. Ancient star charts, strange readings from beyond the galaxy's edge, and records of vanished civilizations pointed to a threat the Council had been monitoring for millennia. President Davis studied the evidence with representatives from the original Council species. "How long have we got?" she asked. "Based on these readings, 20 years at most," the Veldari elder replied. The old Council's approach was to hoard resources and control development, believing only they could mount an adequate defense when the time came. "And our approach?" Davis asked. "Cooperation, innovation, freedom." The elder's tendrils moved thoughtfully. "A risk, perhaps, but one with greater potential reward." As the meeting concluded, Miller and Krell-Tash stood at the observation deck, watching the combined cooperative fleet preparing for its first joint scientific mission to the galaxy's outer regions. "Do you ever regret walking away from our peace talks?" Krell-Tash asked. Miller shook his head. "It was never about walking away. It was about finding the strength to chart our own course. And now we chart it together," the Zeraxian said, "against a threat none of us could face alone." Miller nodded, watching the ships of former enemies now flying side by side. The Council's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating humans. It was underestimating what we could all achieve together as equals.